Hello there, guys, and today we're here to talk about breathing, or the conundrum that people have made it, and how it's actually simple and rather easy to use good air when you play. Now, at first, I'm going to define exactly why we should use breathing. What's so great about it. Two, why is it so confusing? And three, what can we actually do to get a good breath there when we're playing. So, what breathing does, what's so great about it before, the potential benefits of it mean that you got more endurance as really playing without air and squeezing the horn on your face cuts down your endurance, especially when you got to play for hours. And I know, a lot of kids are going to be in marching band, they're going to be trying to do all region, all state kind of stuff. So, you definitely need that endurance. And for other people in general, it really helps. And last but not least, tone. It gives you much, much better tone than you would get previously by taking shallow breaths of air. So, we're going to move on to the second thing about why is this so confusing? And there's a lot of things. Basically, number one, there's an overemphasis on what breathing is doing. And sometimes it's put around there in kind of the high school thing. And like a lie, it's gonna make some people mad. Drum Corps International is it's killing me with ridiculousness because I was back in high school there. It's almost like band puberty in the way where you're really gung ho and you just figured out this DCI thing. Oh, they take so much air and they do all this and that. They're not doing it all that well. All those breathing exercises like the in for four, out for four, and the we're gonna throw paper airplanes. We're gonna draw it back. We're doing all that. It's kind of pointless, and you're essentially you're really overcomplicating the problem, and you're putting too much emphasis on breathing. It's important, but it's a very small part of the things. It's easy to achieve. There's plenty of other complicated things to move on about, but they have a bunch of things. Breathing gym. They do a bunch of breathing exercises before, and trust me, I've done them before. I used to do it like a 30 minutes sometimes when daily back when I was like in my undergrad, like the first couple of years. I thought, oh, breathing exercises. That's really how I'm gonna get that. Really get this horn going. It helps, but it's not magical. Number two, we have very confusing slash redundant methods. This is more of sometimes going with the band director thing, which bless their hearts, they're really really good at other things that they exceed me on. That I'm personally impressed and blown away with some of them, their amount of expertise. But sometimes they're killing me on the breathing thing because we'll have a lot of all right. You tell the students, let's fill up with air, or probably heard him in these statements before. You'll look at my little piece of paper. Fill up with air, more air, faster air. Hand on your stomach, breathing from the diaphragm. Usually, do this, or tell the students to be at the side and okay, we're gonna fill up from the stomach first, all the way up to the shoulders like that. Relax. You don't need all that. And two, or you're gonna think about pushing your diaphragm down, which that's not honestly, if I remember correctly, that's not how it works anyway. The diaphragm is not pushed down; it merely just relaxes. But or something like that. I digress. You don't need to know about. You don't need to be a doctor, and be an MD to figure out how to breathe correctly. It's just not that difficult there. And visual aids. There's usually think about drawing all the air in from the room and then breathing out like that. You get a lot of those, or people will do the thing like think about breathing back here on your back, putting your hand on your back and going. I know my hand's a little hard to see there since it's a little tiny phone camera. But there's that. And last but not least, we also have needless visual aids. If you've ever seen and spent $20 on one of these things, Breath Builder, I don't have the pipe with me now, but it's a ping pong ball in there, and you usually have a little plastic tube that you attach to the top. You breathe in, keep the ping pong ball at the top, and you want little. You don't want the ping pong ball to drop. You essentially want it to stay at the top. You don't really need all that. I've seen other things. Something they tend to use at the hospital sometimes, where you take in air like that from the metal tube, and it judges how much air volume you can pull in. Again, I mean, it's a fun thing to mess around with, but it's not needed anyway. PVC pipes, I've seen those ones. I have not had the. Oh no, I've used all three of those before. And I think I've even had one where it's like I think you like twist the PVC pipe knob to have like resistance or something like that. They're getting ridiculous with that. It's just not that complicated. Oh, last one too. Do that to where you're basically sucking in from your hand to get a good breath. All right, let's get all that out of your head. Let's get to our third thing. How do you actually take a good breath of air? How is this work done? And I'm gonna tell you, you're doing it every day. Not as much as you should, but maybe with not realizing it. It's long tones. It's a lot of that. Literally, all you're doing, especially with long tones, is you're just taking in a breath of air and you're blowing it through, and you're not really moving much of anything. You're getting out of the way, because when you're doing things like moving your valves a lot, and you're kind of squeezing down some. That's naturally how it goes. Now, you can alleviate that kind of pressure over time and good practice, but for the most part, if you're just doing something like this, like I did earlier in another video, and you can tell it's good air because of the good tone that you have. I mean, I've never heard anybody get a big, full, beautiful sound, but then breathe like, it just doesn't mix. That's just not how that works. So if you're doing the long tones, you'll be just fine with that. And then, after I do something like that, try and do them throughout the register of the horn. So, something like a stamp exercise. Maybe a little bit more complicated one. I mean, you might think, man, it really can't be that easy. I spent years like running a rat race around this stuff, and to figure out that that's all it is. It's just long tones. Do them high, do them low, just make them consistent, do them daily. You'll breathe just fine. It's not complicated. Anyway, one last thing before I forget. When you are doing these things, generally try and do them, yes, you can do them off the horn or something, but there is a comfortability issue with it. Like, for example, I got better long tones on my horn than I do if I was singing per se, because I'm not a singer. I only do that recreationally, like sing in church, maybe sing in the shower if I'm really feeling it. But that's about it. So there is a comfortability issue of doing that. But other than that, just long, drawn out, and do them over the range of the horn, something like a stand exercise, you'll be fine. All right, guys. See you.